My friends, the power of one life, surrendered to purpose, cannot be measured. When a woman rises each morning with a conviction in her heart and a vision in her soul, she becomes more than just one voice. She becomes a force that can shift the course of history. Throughout time, nations have been shaken, families have been healed, and generations have been inspired because one woman decided that her life would not be wasted on trivial things. She chose purpose over comfort, courage over fear, and faith over doubt. And in doing so, she became the spark that ignited a world of change. You see, purpose is not about chasing after the applause of men or the recognition of the world. Purpose is born in the quiet places of the heart, where dreams are planted and convictions are shaped. A woman of purpose knows that her strength does not come from the approval of others, but from the clarity of her calling. Look around you today. Our world is desperate for women who will not be defined by what society says they should be, but by who they were created to be. We need women who stand with unshakable faith, who walk with compassion, and who refuse to bend to the pressures of conformity. A woman of purpose is not content with living a small life when she has been called to make a great impact. She sees beyond her own struggles to the struggles of others. She lifts her voice for the voiceless. She becomes a shelter for the broken. She dares to believe that change is possible, and she is willing to be that change. When one woman stands firm in her purpose, she carries with her the seeds of transformation. The world may dismiss her, critics may mock her, and trials may surround her, but she cannot be stopped. Why? Because her vision is bigger than herself. Her life is not built on shifting sand, but on a foundation that cannot be moved. And here is the truth. One woman with purpose can influence her family, her community, her nation, and even the world. Her love can heal wounds. Her courage can inspire movements. Her faith can awaken hope in the darkest of places. So I say to every woman listening today, do not doubt the significance of your life. Do not believe the lie that your purpose is too small. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every step of faith creates ripples that extend further than you will ever see. When you live with purpose, you are not just changing your own life. You are shaping the lives of those who will come after you. And when enough women rise with purpose, the world cannot remain the same. A woman of purpose is unstoppable. A world of change is inevitable. My friends, when we speak of purpose, we are not talking about something small or fleeting. We are talking about the fire that burns within the heart, the vision that guides every step, the conviction that refuses to let a person live an ordinary life when they were created for extraordinary impact. Purpose is not simply about having goals or ambitions. It is the very reason you breathe, the calling that God has placed within you, and the mission that gives your life meaning. And when a woman discovers that purpose, she becomes unstoppable. She is no longer tossed around by the opinions of others or discouraged by the storms of life. She walks with her eyes fixed on what she was born to do. And that kind of focus, that kind of determination, does more than just change her life. It transforms the world around her. Purpose fuels transformation. One woman, fully alive in her calling, can touch more lives than she will ever know. History has proven this again and again. There have been women who refused to be silent when silence was expected of them. Women who stood firm when the easier path would have been to shrink back. Women who lifted others even while they themselves carried heavy burdens. And their purpose gave birth to movements, to revolutions, to a legacy that still speaks long after their voices have gone quiet. But the truth is, you don't have to be known by the world to make a world of difference. Purpose is not measured by titles or fame. It is measured by faithfulness. It is measured by the decision to keep moving forward even when the road is hard. A woman of purpose may never see her name printed in history books, but her influence will live on in the lives she touches, the children she raises with love, the neighbors she encourages with kindness, the friends she lifts in prayer, the community she strengthens by her service. Purpose fuels transformation, and transformation often begins in the quiet places where nobody is watching. The enemy of purpose is distraction. This world is loud, and it will constantly try to tell you who you should be, what you should want, how you should look, and where you should go. But a woman of purpose refuses to be defined by those shifting voices. She knows that her calling is not shaped by culture, but by her Creator. And when she roots herself in that truth, no amount of pressure can pull her away. She does not bow to the trends of the moment because she is anchored to something eternal. That is what makes her powerful. That is what makes her dangerous to the darkness of this world. Transformation begins in the heart, but it never stays there. A woman of purpose cannot keep her fire to herself. It spreads. Her courage inspires courage in others. Her compassion awakens compassion in others. Her faith stirs faith in others. When she steps into her calling, she gives permission for others to do the same. She becomes a light, and that light multiplies. One candle may seem small, but when it lights another, and that candle lights another, soon the whole room is filled with brightness. That is what purpose does. It multiplies. Think of the countless lives that have been changed because one woman chose to believe that her life mattered. Think of the mothers who refused to give up on their children even when the world counted them out. Think of the leaders who stood for truth when it was costly, the healers who tended wounds when it was inconvenient, the dreamers who worked tirelessly for a vision that others thought was impossible. Their names may not all be famous, but their impact is undeniable. And it all began with one decision: to live with purpose. Purpose will always require sacrifice. It will not always be easy. There will be nights of doubt and days of discouragement. There will be moments when quitting feels easier than pressing on. But in those very moments, transformation is being forged. The fire of purpose burns hottest in the trials of life. And it is there that strength is tested, character is refined, and destiny is shaped. Every great change that has ever been accomplished was born out of perseverance. Purpose fuels transformation because it refuses to let you quit when giving up looks appealing. It keeps your feet moving when the road grows long. It whispers hope when everything around you feels hopeless. And purpose is not just for the strong. It is for the willing. It is not for the perfect. It is for the faithful. A woman who surrenders her weakness to her calling becomes stronger than she ever imagined. She may stumble, but she rises. She may be mocked, but she stands. She may be underestimated, but she proves that her life was meant for more. The world may try to measure her worth by outward standards, but she knows that her value is eternal and her mission is unshakable. So, to every woman hearing these words, let me remind you, your purpose is not too small. Do not let comparison rob you of your calling. Do not let fear convince you that your voice does not matter. Do not let past failures whisper that you have no future. Every day you rise with determination. Every act of kindness you show. Every truth you speak. Every life you touch. You are sowing seeds of change. You may not see the full harvest in your lifetime, but those seeds will grow, and they will bear fruit in the lives of those who come after you. When a woman lives with purpose, She is no longer defined by the brokenness around her. She becomes a builder of hope. She no longer waits for someone else to bring change. She becomes the change. She does not wait for permission to make a difference. She already carries the authority within her. And when women across the world rise up with this kind of conviction, no power on earth can stop the transformation that will follow. Purpose fuels transformation. It takes ordinary lives and turns them into extraordinary testimonies. It takes weakness and turns it into strength. It takes pain and turns it into power. And it begins with one simple decision: to live for something greater than yourself. The world is waiting for women of purpose. Families are waiting. Communities are waiting. Generations yet to come are waiting. The question is not whether you have a purpose, you do. The question is whether you will rise and live it out. Because when you do, you will not only change your world, you will change the world. Strength comes from conviction, not approval. The applause of people may be sweet for a moment, but it fades as quickly as it comes. The approval of the crowd is like shifting sand. It rises and falls with the tide of opinion. But conviction, my friends, is a rock beneath your feet. It is the anchor that keeps you steady when storms rage, when voices criticize, and when the world tries to press you into its mold. When a woman rises each morning with conviction burning in her heart, she no longer needs to chase the temporary approval of others. She knows who she is, and she knows what she was created to do. That inner certainty gives her strength greater than the obstacles in front of her. Approval may win you popularity for a season, but conviction gives you strength for a lifetime. Think of the lives that changed the world, not because they sought permission, but because they followed conviction. Approval will often say, "Wait, don't rock the boat, stay silent." But conviction whispers, "Stand, speak, do not be afraid." It is conviction that keeps a woman steady when criticism comes, because she is no longer measuring her worth by the opinions of others, but by the truth in her soul. Too often we look outward for validation, waiting for others to clap for us, to affirm us, to say we are enough. But those voices are inconsistent. One day the world may praise you, and the next it may tear you down. If your strength is built on that shaky foundation, you will rise and fall with every shifting opinion. But if your strength is built on conviction, you can stand tall even when no one is cheering, even when no one understands, even when the crowd turns away. Conviction is what drives a woman of purpose. Conviction is what fuels her courage. Conviction is what allows her to walk forward even when the path is lonely. And conviction is what gives her the ability to bring lasting change into the world. Because change does not come from those who follow the crowd. It comes from those who dare to walk against it. My friends, strength that comes from approval is fragile. Strength that comes from conviction is unbreakable. When you live by conviction, you will face criticism. You will face misunderstanding. You will face moments of doubt. But in those moments, you must remember that the greatest voices of history, the strongest leaders, the women who inspired nations, were not those who blended in, but those who stood firm in their beliefs. They stood not because the world gave them permission, but because conviction left them no choice. A woman of conviction cannot be silenced by fear. She cannot be bought by flattery. She cannot be swayed by opinion. Her strength is not on loan from others. It is rooted in something deeper, something eternal. That kind of strength endures. That kind of strength changes lives. That kind of strength shapes history. You may feel ordinary. You may wonder if your life can truly make a difference. But let me tell you, when conviction grips your heart, There is nothing ordinary about you. A woman with conviction in her purpose can raise a generation. She can heal a broken community. She can ignite a movement of change that touches the world. It is not the approval of men that builds nations. It is not the applause of the crowd that heals wounds. It is conviction that holds a family together when the storms of life rage. It is conviction that drives a mother to keep believing in her children when the world has given up on them. It is conviction that enables a leader to rise and speak when everyone else stays silent. And yet, how tempting it is to crave approval. How tempting it is to measure ourselves by likes, by compliments, by recognition. But my friends, that approval is shallow. It may comfort the ego, but it will never strengthen the soul. If you want to live with strength that lasts, let go of the need to please everyone. Let go of the fear of being misunderstood. Live by conviction, and you will find a power within you that no crowd can give and no critic can take away. Every woman listening to these words has a calling inside her. There is a vision that has been planted in your heart, a purpose that stirs your soul. But if you spend your life waiting for the world to approve of it, you may never walk it out. Some will not understand, some will doubt, some will even oppose you. But if you have conviction, you will keep walking. You will keep believing. You will keep pressing forward, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Conviction is what makes the impossible possible. Conviction is what takes an ordinary life and makes it extraordinary. Conviction is what keeps you standing when everything around you is falling apart. Strength from conviction is not loud, but it is unshakable. It does not need to boast, because it proves itself over time. You may think your conviction is small, your purpose insignificant. But let me remind you, great change always begins with one heart that refuses to compromise. A single candle may seem weak, but in the darkness it shines brighter than 1,000 voices of approval. One woman with conviction can ignite hope in countless others, not by shouting for attention, but by living with courage. Approval may open doors, but conviction builds bridges. Approval may win you friends, but conviction inspires followers. Approval may get you applause, but conviction leaves a legacy. So stand firm, woman of purpose. Stand firm, not because the world believes in you, but because your conviction tells you that your life matters, that your voice is needed, and that your steps are not in vain. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to walk in truth, to live with courage, and to let your conviction shine. Strength that comes from approval will fade, but strength that comes from conviction will carry you through every trial, every setback, every storm. And when your life is finished, it will not be the applause of people that matters, but the lives you touched, because you stood firm in what you believed. Conviction gives birth to courage. Courage gives birth to change. And change gives birth to a better world. That is the power of a woman who chooses conviction over approval. That is the strength that cannot be shaken. A woman of purpose carries within her a quiet strength that cannot be ignored. She may not always stand on a stage, she may not always hold a title, and she may not always be praised by the world, but the influence of her life stretches farther than she can imagine. We often think that it takes great power, wealth, or fame to change the course of history, but the truth is that change most often begins in the unseen, in the ordinary, in the seemingly small choices of everyday life. One kind word spoken at the right time can heal a heart that has been broken for years. One prayer whispered in faith can move mountains no human hand could ever shift. One moment of courage can inspire countless others to stand when they once thought they could only fall. You see, Small acts create lasting impact. A woman who walks with purpose understands this truth. She knows that her strength is not measured in applause, but in the seeds she plants, often without realizing how deeply they will take root. Consider the mother who tucks her child in at night and whispers words of love and hope. To the world, it is a small act, unnoticed and uncelebrated. But to that child, those words may become the foundation of self-worth, the anchor in stormy seasons, the voice that echoes long after the mother is gone. Small acts done with purpose create legacies. Think of the friend who reaches out to someone sitting in loneliness and despair. A simple gesture, a visit, a letter, or even a smile can mean the difference between giving up and holding on. She may never know the battle she has helped someone win. She may never see the life she has rescued from the edge of hopelessness. But her small act becomes a spark of light in a darkened world. The world measures greatness in crowns and achievements, but heaven measures greatness in faithfulness. The woman of purpose knows that no deed is wasted when it is done with love. She may never lead a nation, but she may raise a child who will. She may never write books, but she may speak words that echo through generations. She may never stand in front of thousands, but her life may influence millions because she dared to be faithful in the little things. Small acts often look insignificant in the moment, but they echo across time. The teacher who believes in a struggling student plants a vision of possibility. The nurse who comforts a patient in pain brings dignity and peace to a weary soul. The neighbor who checks on the widow across the street demonstrates compassion that restores hope. None of these things make headlines. None of these things win awards. But all of these things change the world because they change people. And people transformed by love, courage, and kindness are the ones who go on to transform societies. The chain reaction begins not with fanfare, but with faithfulness, not with grand gestures, but with steady devotion. This is the power of living on purpose. When we think about history, it is easy to imagine that only the mighty have shaped it. Yet, if we look closer, behind every leader, behind every movement, behind every change, there are countless women who chose to be faithful in the shadows. Their prayers, their sacrifices, their unseen labors were the soil in which greatness grew. They were women of purpose, planting seeds in the quiet, trusting that one day those seeds would bear fruit. And here lies the secret: when you live with purpose, even the smallest act becomes eternal. A cup of water given in kindness carries weight far beyond its size. A gentle word spoken in truth can redirect a life. A decision to forgive can end a cycle of hatred and open the door to healing. None of these moments are small in their effect. They ripple outward, touching lives you will never meet, shaping stories you will never rid, and building bridges you may never walk across yourself. So many underestimate the significance of their influence. They say, "What can I do? I am just one person." But one person with purpose is never just one. She is a force multiplied by time, magnified by faith, and empowered by love. One woman's courage can inspire 1,000. One woman's kindness can melt hardened hearts. One woman's vision can alter the future of her family and beyond. Do not despise the small things. Do not overlook the quiet moments. Every choice, every word, every act, when anchored in purpose, carries eternal weight. A single flame can light another, and then another, until an entire city glows. In the same way, one purposeful life can ignite change in countless others, until the world itself is touched by the warmth of that fire. You may feel unnoticed. You may think your daily work is ordinary. You may believe your sacrifices go unseen. But purpose gives meaning to the smallest details. The love you pour into your family, the patience you show to others, the integrity with which you live, all of it becomes part of a story far greater than your own. And though you may never see the full harvest, rest assured the seeds you plant will bear fruit in due season. The measure of a woman's greatness is not found in what the world applauds, but in what eternity remembers. And eternity remembers the small acts that created lasting change, the moments of faith that shifted destinies, the unseen prayers that moved mountains, the gentle hands that healed wounds. So let this truth settle deep within you. No act of love is ever wasted. No step of courage is ever too small. No word of encouragement ever falls silent. When you live with purpose, your life is multiplied beyond measure. Your legacy is not just what you leave behind, but the change you set in motion through the seemingly little things. A woman of purpose may never fully know the extent of her influence while she lives, but the world around her will know. Generations after her will feel it, and lives she never met will be shaped by it. Because when small acts are done with great purpose, they do not fade away, they live on. And so, I say to you, rise each day with purpose. Speak words that heal. Take steps that lift others. Give love freely, even when it seems unnoticed. Do not wait for the big moment to make a difference, because every moment is already big when it is filled with meaning. Small acts create lasting impact, and through them, you will discover that your life is not only valuable, but world-changing. One life can change the world. We often think that history is shaped by nations, by armies, or by the decisions of governments, but the truth is far deeper. Real change begins with one person who dares to live with purpose. One woman, one man, one life surrendered to a calling greater than themselves has the power to alter the course of generations. When you look back at history, you will find that the greatest movements did not start with the masses. They started with one person who carried a burden in their heart and refused to let it die. They stood against fear, they pressed through doubt, and they chose to believe that their life was meant for something more. One life, lived with conviction, can change the very destiny of a people. A woman of purpose embodies this truth. Her strength does not lie in outward appearances, nor in the fleeting opinions of the world. Her strength is born from the fire within, from that still small voice that whispers to her soul, "You were made for more." It is this conviction that makes her unshakable, even when storms rage around her. It is this vision that keeps her pressing forward when others have given up. The world often underestimates the power of one life. It tells us that we are too small, too ordinary, too insignificant to matter. But every great story tells us otherwise. One woman who lifts her voice for truth can silence the lies of generations. One mother who raises her children in love and faith can alter the future of a family tree. One young girl who refuses to bow to fear can inspire countless others to rise with courage. The ripple effect of one life cannot be contained. There are women who have stood in the shadows of history, whose names the world may never know, yet their impact is still felt. A quiet prayer, a word of encouragement, an act of kindness, they seem small, but they carry eternal weight. You may never see the full reach of your life, but rest assured, no act done in purpose is ever wasted. The smallest seed can grow into a tree that provides shelter for generations. A woman of purpose is not defined by what others think she should be. She is not swayed by the trends of culture or the voices that try to confine her. Instead, she is rooted in something greater, anchored in truth, driven by vision. While others may chase the applause of the crowd, She knows that true fulfillment comes from living faithfully to her calling. And when she does, she becomes a beacon of light in a darkened world. One life can change the world because it is not lived for itself alone. Purpose always reaches beyond personal gain. It looks outward to the needs of others. A woman of purpose asks, how can my life bring hope? How can my words bring healing? How can my actions inspire others to believe again? In answering these questions, her life becomes a bridge for others to cross, a light that points the way, a foundation on which future generations can stand. There is courage in such a life, courage to stand when it would be easier to sit down, courage to speak when silence feels safer, courage to dream when the world says dreams are impossible. This courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act in spite of it. One woman with courage becomes a movement because courage is contagious. When others see her stand, they too find the strength to rise. The truth is, you do not need the whole world to agree with you to make a difference. You only need to be faithful to the calling placed within you. Think of the many who have impacted history. Some carried titles, but many did not. They were ordinary people with extraordinary faith. Their greatness was not in their status, but in their purpose. And that same power lives within you. One life can change the world when it refuses to be wasted. Too many settle for survival, content to simply exist. But a woman of purpose knows that life is a gift, not to be squandered, but to be invested. She chooses each day to live with intention, to sow seeds of love, to spread truth, to build bridges. And while others may overlook her, history will not forget her, for her influence will echo long after she is gone. Imagine the power of a single candle in a room of darkness. It may seem small, but its light pierces through the shadows. So it is with one life lived with purpose. The darkness of despair, of injustice, of hopelessness cannot withstand the light of conviction. One flame has the power to ignite another until the room is filled with light. One woman with a vision can awaken an entire generation to rise up and believe again. So do not underestimate the significance of your life. Do not believe the lie that your contribution is too small or your purpose too insignificant. Every great movement begins with one step. Every voice that has echoed across time began as a whisper. Every flame that has lit the world began as a spark. You are that spark. You are that voice. You are that life that can change the world. The world is waiting, not for someone else, not for another time, but for you. Waiting for you to rise with purpose. Waiting for you to speak with courage. Waiting for you to live with conviction. One life can make a difference, and that life can be yours. And when a woman decides to live with purpose, she does not just change her own story. She changes the story of those who will come after her. Her children, her community, her nation, and even the world will feel the impact of her choices. She becomes a legacy, not because she sought fame or power, but because she dared to live faithfully, courageously, and purposefully. One life can change the world. One voice can awaken hope. One act of faith can shift the course of history. Let your life be that one.